Hi, this is Tim from Time to Sew, and doing something slightly different this time. Rather than being a workshop as such, it's just a little information video about different types of stamps. Traditionally, this was the most readily available stamp, a wooden back with a rubber moulded section for stamping with. And we still have 1,000 odd permutations of different designs like this on the website. However, a number of the designs are swapping from this type of construction to clear stamps like this and cling stamps, this sort of thing. And also you will come across unmounted stamps like this. Now, I'm quite often asked the difference between them and how to use them, so that's the purpose of this little video. So what I'm going to do is run through the different designs and talk a little bit about their pros and cons. So off we go. So as to keep everything consistent, I'm going to use the same ink for each style of stamping that I'm going to do. And first off, I'm going to use the traditional wooden stamp with the rubber back. Now I'm going to just take the lid off my ink, hold the stamp in one hand and take the ink pad to the stamp. Now you can see quite clearly the ink going on. Doing it this way, taking the ink pad to the stamp, you find it less likely to miss something. And you just go up and down. Don't be tempted to slide the pad across the stamp, or else you'll end up with a build-up of ink on the edge that you don't want and wiping the ink from the surface that you're stamping on. So that lid back on the ink, and then I'm just going to position my stamp and away I go. So there we go, there's my image stamped on the card. Now, nice and straightforward, nice and easy. However, here I've got a text stamp. Jesus is the reason for the season. Nice print face. Now, if I want to put this right next to the cross, I ink it in the same way. Now hopefully the text as printed on the back of the stamp corresponds quite closely to where the rubber is on the face of the stamp. But as you can see, when I come to position the two, there is an element of guesswork as to whether the edge of the J here is as tight to the edge of the wood as it appears on the back. So let's have a go. And there we go. It's not too bad. Now, the beauty of this type of stamp is it's very durable. As you can see, this one is got ink stains on the back and bits and pieces. It's one that I use a lot for demos on the stand at shows and things, and it's had a lot of rough treatment, but it's still merrily stamping away. Next, we're going to look at clear stamps. Now, here is a brand new set still in the packaging, so I'm just going to open this up and show you what comes in the pack. So we've got a few little bits of instructions on the back, then we've got a slice of acetate with all the designs printed on it, and then two pieces of acetate, one slightly thicker than the other, that sandwich the stamps themselves in between. When you're using clear stamps, you need a block. The best thing to use are these acrylic blocks that are see-through. And if I take I can now just attach that by pressing it onto the block. Now the thing that you'll notice, if I move my hand behind, is that you can see through the block and actually through the stamping image itself to my finger. So I'm going to ink this in exactly the same way. So holding the block in one hand, I'm going to take the ink pad to the block, lid back on the ink, and then stamp like that. There we go. Nice crisp image there. Now I've got some little nativity characters here. This is how I store my clear stamps, and I'm just going to take the king here, peel my palm tree off of the block and put it back onto the acetate. Take my king, put him onto the block. There we go. I'm going to ink him as before. And now I can see through, and I can see the palm tree, and I can make sure that my king is just touching but not overlapping. There we go. How's that? Now, what's probably a better or more challenging thing is the snow globe itself. So I'm just going to peel the snow globe part of the stamp from the acetate backer, put onto my acrylic block, ink it in exactly the same way. And then stamp it onto my card. There you go. Now, I'm going to put a little scene into the snow globe. So, here's a little Bethlehem scene. I think this is going to fit on my small block. The smaller the stamp, the easier I find it is to stamp. So I tend to work on the smallest block that I can. So I'm just going to ink that up. And there we go. You can see I've been able to line up the bottom of that village scene exactly to the bottom of the snow globe. Now there's a plate on the front of the snow globe, and I'm going to take a line of text there we go. This one says wise men seek him still. And it's not going to fit square across my small block here. It's hanging off the edge. I don't want that. So I'm actually going to put it on diagonally so that the whole of the text is on the block. Ink it in the same way. And now, looking through the block and through the text, I'm going to position that into the snow globe. There we go. Now positioning that accurately with a wooden stamp would be virtually impossible, so I wouldn't be able to see through to get that accurate positioning. There we go. The thing that clear stamps allow you to do is to combine several stamps on the same block and print them all together. So going back to these little Christmas stamps that I was using before, I'm going to make up a little scene. So I'm going to have a camel, one of the wise men, this little piece of desert grass, give the camel something to eat, and a star. There we go. And I'm going to put my line of text underneath. Wise men seeking. Now I'm going to ink the whole lot as if it were one stamp. And then stamp away. There we go. Wise men seeking. Now, to my eye, that looks fine. Nothing's crooked, and I'm ready. I could stamp all my Christmas cards. If you look at it and think, oh, the text is a little skew with, you can straighten it up and stamp again. I can look at it and think, that's nice, but I'd like my next card, because it's going to the same family, to be similar but just slightly different, so not everybody's getting the same card. So what I'm going to do is go back to my stamp. I'm going to take this king and camel off, and I'm going to add this little guy here, and this camel. Ink it up. And away we go. I like that one, so I'm going to do that one again. If I was using wooden stamps, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stamps here. To consistently stamp those 5 stamps independently without getting one crooked would be difficult. As you can see, I can just keep inking and restamping, and obviously they're exactly the same because nothing's moved on the block. In the same way, we do text stamps where you have the same print face and you can combine lines of text. So we have things like "May God bless you" on one line, then "on your," then retirement, anniversary, christening, baptism. So one little pack of stamps takes the place of a dozen wooden stamps, and you can combine them in any way you like to make whatever verse you want. Next we have the cling stamps. So here's a design, and this is what it looks like out the packet. Well, not exactly, it's a slightly different stamp, but you get the idea. It doesn't actually feel sticky. However, when I lay it onto the acrylic block, it stays there. Now, you can see that you can look through the block and see the outer edge of the stamp, but I can't actually see where the bird is because I can't see through the stamp itself. So there's my design. I'm just going to square that up on the block. There we go, that looks better, doesn't it? So I'm going to ink it. And stamp away. So there we go, nice crisp image again. Now the advantage of cling stamps and clear stamps is that they're easier to store. This box that I've got here has layer upon layer of acetate with my clear stamp stuck to it. This would be equivalent to a couple of hundred wooden stamps, which should obviously take up much more room. There's the ease of positioning, but there's also a price advantage. When you're buying a traditional stamp, you're paying for the block every time. Now the first time you buy clear stamps, you obviously need to buy the blocks. And so your first set of clear stamps and blocks are going to cost more than the wooden stamps. However, next time round, you already have the blocks, so all you're buying is the stamp. In general terms, it works out cheaper. The third type of stamp you will find is described as unmounted. Now this is the same rubber as used on a wooden stamp or a cling stamp, but it is purely the rubber. There's no foam behind it. If you look at one of your wooden stamps side on, you will see that there's the rubber, and then behind it there's a foam to cushion it. Now without that foam, they're really difficult to stamp with. Now the cling stamp again has the rubber carrying the design, and then behind it a layer of foam, and then the sticky layer on the back. To use these, to use the unmounted, you need to buy a foam layer to put onto the back, and then a sticky layer to go onto that to hold it to your block. There are applications like using them to emboss clay into, using them as silver clay, where the foam is a nuisance and you're better off without it. But for stamping with ink on cards, you need that foam. We don't actually stock stamps like this at the moment. If there is a demand, we may well introduce them at a later date. The thing that we found though in costing them is that by the time you add the foam and the sticky layer, it works out dearer than buying cling stamps or clear stamps where it's done for you. The clear stamps do require a little bit more care. They're not as robust as rubber stamps. In my opinion, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. On a practical level, if you find you have a stamp that has been skating around and picked up a lot of dust and dirt and whatever, give it a wash in a little bit of mild soapy water and let it dry naturally. It's better to leave it print side down, and when it dries it'll regain the stickiness. If you've got one that's really been abused and kicking around in the bottom of the workbox, then wash it over with a little bit of vinegar. A build up of oil or detergent on the stamp will reduce its stickiness. The vinegar cuts through all of that and restores the stickiness. So I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope that's been of help, and watch out for the next video. Thanks very much indeed. Bye.